What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Average Bob, and welcome back to a Week 4 matchup preview show between the New York Giants and the Los Angeles Chargers. As you see, I'm in a different studio for this week's episode. I am centric on the Lovesac right here. So let's see how this format goes, and let's roll with the punches and have some fun while talking about this upcoming matchup. Where I want to get started here is talking about, first and foremost, Jaxson Dart making his debut for the Giants. This was kind of an centric topic of, if and not when this would happen. And unfortunately, as the Giants season began to tank and spiral out of control, falling to 0-3, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen need to kind of make a move to shake things up. Not to seem like the guys in the locker room seem too thrilled about this change, which was a little bit weird to see the videos from the locker room when they ask guys, hey, Jaxson Darts, the new quarterback, you excited about that? And they're kind of just like, yeah, I don't know. It's not up to me. Like, I was hoping for a little bit more enthusiasm and backing behind the rookie quarterback, but who knows? Maybe they all are supporting him, especially maybe also if you're a defensive player, like you don't really care or deal with the quarterbacks that often, but inevitably the time has come. It is here and is here probably much more earlier than most people anticipated. There are a lot of people that are upset about him starting against the 3-0 Chargers for a myriad of reasons, right? I think the number one reason is that they're 3-0. The Chargers are good. They have a good front seven. They have a strong defense. They've allowed only 2 passing touchdowns this season. So by doing that, you are kind of throwing your rookie quarterback to the proverbial wolves, which, and the flip side of that argument is this is the NFL. You're going to play. You don't get to pick who you're going to play every single week. Yeah, would you like to play the Saints, who are 0-3? Would you want to play a shitty team? Sure. But you do want to actually test yourself, compete, see what you're made of at the highest level. And who knows, is 6.5-point underdogs coming into this one. Maybe, just maybe, Jaxson Dart could potentially shock the world here. Will it happen? Based on what we've seen so far this season, probably not. And just to, compare that to what we've seen so far, the Giants play a real team in the Commanders week 1. The offense is very stagnant. Nothing really happens. They lost, and they should have lost by more. Week 2, fast forward, you get in the shootout versus the Cowboys. You end up massively just blowing it and losing in overtime. But it's a game where Russell Wilson, your quarterback, has a career number from a passing yards perspective. And the offense, there were guys that made great plays on offense, and it just all, textbook Giants of what they've been this last decade or so of, right, finding ways to lose. They invented a new one there. Then week 3 versus the Chiefs. Again, this is why people have said the Giants have had this toughest strength of schedule this season of all teams. You got a matchup Sunday Night Football versus the Chiefs. And, man, I've started watching some of the highlights, but Chris Collinsworth was worse than I possibly could have imagined. Some of them, I think he was talking about like a scarecrow and a corn maze or something, referring to Mahomes. Which was just absurd. Maybe I'll post that down below because I saw it on Instagram and it was a hilarious video. Someone posted, so I'll post that. But to my point, it's been, the offense looked terrible in that, and it's what inevitably led to Jaxson Dart getting the start in week 4. I don't know. Is it a game plan perspective? Is it on the coaches, or is it on Russell Wilson, or maybe there's a, combination of the two? It didn't really seem, that based on the game plans, they look the same week in and week out. I don't anticipate them looking very different against the Chargers, So maybe it is a coaching and scheme, thing. But at the end of the day, this was a move also that, right or wrong, Brian Daboll now has a guy that him and Joe Schoen drafted, are tied to and married to, and now could begin to develop. And the only way to really, truly to develop an NFL quarterback, yes, they could sit around for a season like Patrick Mahomes did his rookie year, or Eli Manning did for a number of games, and Kurt Warner was here way back when, right? But really, trial by fire is one way to begin to learn on the fly, make a name for yourself, and you see guys do have really successful rookie seasons. C.J. Stroud, prime example, and then they drop off. Jaden Daniels, offensive rookie of the year last year, great season, but he has injury issues, so. Getting into this matchup versus the Chargers, whether you agree with starting Jaxson Dart or not, the time has come. The time has come to watch him be an NFL football player, and hopefully they could be the guy that they drafted him to be. I saw one tweet about how guys who start that are like in the back end of round one, or like, Kenny Pickett and all these guys, and they don't have successful NFL careers. But, tough titties, man. This is the NFL. This is how you have to cut your teeth and make a name for yourself. And Jaxson Dart seems like an absolute dog. He says the right things. But now the time for talking for this coaching staff, for these players, both on offense and defense, and for Jaxson Dart has ended, and the time for action has begun. And shit, this will dictate the rest of the season, right? If the Giants can beat the Chargers at home at 1 p.m. on Sunday, we're fully back in this, are we not? We're 1-3. It's not where we want to be per se, but it's a lot better than 0-4. And somehow, if Jaxson Dart can elevate the play of other guys around him, like Neighbors, who probably, it'll be vice versa in that regard, but Wan'Dell is a safety blanket. Maybe Slayton gets going. Maybe Theo Johnson gets going. Maybe, the Scatabo Jaxson Dart option connection is there. So it's just more, and this is the whole thing with a promising rookie quarterback, is it's the unknown. We don't know how he's going to truly perform at the NFL level until we see it. And that's what makes me most excited about this one, is that we're going to be able to see it this weekend. We didn't have to wait a full year like when Alex Smith was there and the Chiefs went to a playoff team. Think about that when people are always compare Alex Smith to Mahomes, and Mahomes not playing his first year. The Chiefs went to the playoffs, albeit they lost, but that was the makings of a good team. The Giants right now are not that. So would it make sense to just play Russell Wilson for 17 games and him just suck, and we're just like, okay, whatever. Like, what happens if you finish with the first overall pick again, and then you're taking whoever the quarterback is next year, like Nussmeier or Arch or whatever, and then you're, back to square one, and you tell them, like, kind of like Josh Rosen's status to kick bricks when Josh Rosen was drafted by the Cardinals, and then they took Kyler in the next year, and the rest was history pretty much for him. But I feel different about Jaxson Dart. I feel different about this opportunity. And I think you're finally going to see, the guys that, like Todd McShay. I threw a tweet out at Todd McShay because Todd McShay is someone who literally cries defending Brian Daboll. They must be like legitimately like boys or something, because you never really saw anyone go to bat for Brian Daboll as hard as Todd McShay has gone. Would still love to have him on for the debate. I doubt he would ever come on, but that would be fun. But I think for guys like Tom McShay that have said Brian Daboll is this offensive coach, this quarterback whisperer, this guru, well, now you're really going to find out for real if that was true. If it was true for Brian Daboll's relationship with Tua at Alabama, Jaden Hurts at Alabama, why am I blanking on who else? Josh Allen on the Bills, and all of these guys, were they made because of Brian Daboll's coaching to their potential, or was it kind of he unlocked a little bit and the rest was history and they didn't need him anymore? Because obviously those guys, for the most part have had, and Josh Allen especially, hasn't really missed a beat since Brian Daboll left him. So we're going to see all of that this weekend. And I'm super excited about it. It's so much better than just seeing Russell Wilson trot out again. Obviously, week 4, you talk about people wanting him to start in week 5 versus Saints. Again, dude, Superdome is a hard place to play, whether the Saints are good or bad. It just is. But obviously, it is in the dome. But it gets loud in domes. They pump the crowd noise in too, So, and they would love to, nothing more than be a bad team beating another bad team. Like, I don't think the Saints fans give a shit. I mean, obviously they want to win because they got robbed for all those years in the playoffs, like the Minnesota Miracle, all of that stuff. And I do feel bad for Saints fans because I have liked them as an organization and as a fan base. But my point is, it's not an easy place to play. It's not an easy place for a rookie to play in their first debut, whether the team is bad or not. Easily a game that they could lose, right? Like, what was it, 2 years ago when the Giants were, they needed to win a game. They played against the Raiders with like Adrian O'Connell and, in the Raiders, and the Raiders beat the crap out of them. So you just never know especially when bad teams have any given Sunday and play well. But on the flip side of things, maybe that's something that the Giants get a little spark of in front of a home crowd, an optimistic home crowd, because going to the game versus the Chiefs, big game versus the Chiefs. Honestly, a bucket list thing of mine was to see Patrick Mahomes play, but I got to be honest with you, the crowd felt dead. The stadium was silent. You heard Chiefs fans. You didn't really hear Giants fans that much besides booing when for missed fourth downs, not being able to kick a field goal, to when Russell Wilson gets subbed off the field, to Jaxson Darts coming on would be like some applauses, and Scatabo plays too. But, it's been too few and far between for the Giants at home to make it a tough place to play that fans are happy to be at, to be excited about. And it was really weird and eerie, I felt like, going into that game, because there would have been a time period, and I think there will be again eventually, when the Giants are playing the Chiefs in Sunday Night Football, and everyone there is absolutely locked in, ready to roll, pumped AF to beat a good team, right? It just didn't have that feeling whatsoever, and that was a little unfortunate, and I'm looking forward to whenever we can have that back. So moving ahead to this one, Chargers, Giants, Jim Harbaugh has the Chargers out to a 3-0 start. One thing that I do want to cover right off the bat, just to touch on, I haven't really touched on anything gambling related this season. The Giants are 5.5, 6-point dogs going into this one, or 6.5. It opened at 5.5, and probably after they named Dart the starter, went to 6.5. I would like 6.5. We'll see what happens there. But more importantly, where I think you can make a nice little pretty penny here is on Omarion Hampton. Is it Omarion Hampton, who is the running back for the Chargers? He's a rookie. He was at UNC last year, so you're going to get a rookie-on-rookie matchup between Hampton and Scatabo. I'm sure they'll have an infographic on the screen about that, because here's the thing with the Giants. The Giants' rush defense looks as bad as it's possibly been somehow over the last few years. Nothing's changed. Jim Harbaugh is a coach who absolutely loves to run. Look at his national championship team at Michigan when they had Blake Corum. They had the other guy whose name I'm blanking on right now, who's just as freaking good. And they love to pound the rock, and you'll see them do that. So I like Omarion Hampton props over anytime touchdown. I would look at those for sure in this one. And then, you're looking at also a guy in Josh Herbert who, last year, a little bit of regression, or they just had some injuries, but now they have guys like, hold on, I'm trying to pull up the stats here as I'm talking, but Josh Herbert through 3 games has passed for 860 yards and 6 touchdowns to 1 interception. He has been sacked 10 total times thus far. But yeah, Josh Herbert could be in line for an MVP type season if the Chargers continue to have the success that they've had thus far. Omarion, that's his name, Omarion Hampton, has only 42 carries for 142 yards and 1 rushing touchdown, but I think he, just by the nature of how bad the Giants and how porous their rushing defense is, he will find the end zone in this one, because the only real competition to Omarion Hampton was Najee Harris, who unfortunately tore his Achilles in the early on, I think, in the Chargers' last game. And I saw the clip of it. It was pretty brutal, because it's like he was faking a play action pass, and he fell before he even got the play action. I really haven't seen an injury like that in a while, and I thought I was rooting for Najee Harris this season because he left the Steelers, and I wanted to see him have a success where he went to next. And then another guy who's had 6. This Chargers offense is good. I forgot, just looking at the names here on the list here as I'm running through the stats. Quentin Johnson, second-year man out of TCU, already with 239, 3 touchdowns. So he's averaging almost 80 yards a game and 17 yards a catch on 24 targets, 14 receptions. Pretty strong start to him. He was literally block hands last year, couldn't catch anything. And he was getting dragged a little bit from training camp footage and whatnot, but he's off to a hot start. And then you have Old Faithful, Keenan Allen there, also off to a hot start. 3 touchdowns, almost 200 yards in 30 games. And then a younger guy in Ladd McConkey, who I believe is in his second year too, with 163 yards. So a lot of complementary options there in that offense. From a pass catching perspective, I think, the work's going to be cut out for Shane Bowen on trying to get to Herbert. But the Chargers will be able to run the ball, and they'll be able to open up the pass by their ability to run. Damn, now I'm thinking I kind of don't like the Giants plus 6.5, but this is why we talk through these things, right? This is why we're sitting on the Lovesac. We're chilling. We got the Stars and Stripes going. The vibes are high because we're hitting the Ryder Cup tomorrow morning. So just to talk about this defense a little bit, too, Derwin James leading the team in tackles and 1 sack, 5 TFLs. Daiwan Henley has 2 sacks. He is a third-year man out of Washington State. Got to be honest, never even heard of him before. So if you're a Chargers fan and you want to hype up your boy, sound off in the comments below. And some other guys. So I'm not going to go Bud Dupree down there. He's always someone I would pick up in like Madden or something to add some depth on the edge rushing position. But here's the thing, man. They're 3-0 for a reason. They are building something over there. They're building, let's look at it, who they've beaten. So that week 1, the Sao Paulo Brazil game, the Chargers beat the Chiefs 27-21. Week 2, they had a big win over the Raiders 20-9. And then more recently, last weekend, I believe this game was really good. I didn't really get to watch it, obviously, because I was tailgating and stuff along those lines. But the Chargers did beat the Broncos, who had a lot of hype going into this season, 23-20. Sorry, I just want to check the box score real quickly, where Justin Herbert with a 300-yard game. Omari and Hampton went 19 for 70 and a touchdown with a long of 11. He might be able to eclipse that. So maybe look into his longest rush of the day. I'm sure the Giants will be able to help him out there. And I think this one just came down to a field goal at the end. So Justin Herbert rallies the Chargers for a 23-21. That's the headline. So I'm not going to give any predictions on this one. I think we did a pretty comprehensive, matchup preview here live from the Lovesac in Average Bob Studios. It's yesterday, filmed the podcast with us talking about sports cards, the Giants, Dexter Lawrence, all of this great stuff with Bars Cards on Instagram. He's got a great profile. Go check him out there. Check out the interview if you want to just learn more about sports cards and, hearing all the fun conversation that we had about all the sports car related stuff. We share some fun stories, and then also, just talking about the Giants and the season in general. But hey, a lot could change this weekend in week 4 with Jaxson Darts starting. If he finds a way to get it done, we're back to being optimistic, Bob. And let's see what, you never know. It's the unexpected. Let's see what happens. Are the Chargers going to go undefeated this entire season? I don't think so. Maybe Jaxson Dart puts that first L on the stat sheet for him. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Go USA in the Ryder Cup tomorrow morning when I'm there. This weekend, LFG. Love you guys. Tamia.
Oh.